Hey y'all, and we back on another reaction with the Young Thug Game information. Lord have mercy. Y'all, let me tell you this. Young Thug Game expert made Thug's lawyer push back from Judge Ural. And let me tell you what happened. While questioning a game expert in the YSL RICO case on Monday, on the 13th, November 13th, the judge took issue with a remark by Steele. The attorney Steele is uh, Young Thug attorney, okay, who was frustrated with that gang expert answers and the prosecution repeated objections. So y'all, I'm not gonna give this thing away. I'm just gonna go ahead on and what they trying to say that the judge said that he responded to still I'll be careful about the characterization, sir. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot going on. So the two had another tense exchange when prosecutor is complaining about the form of questions that young thug attorney, was presenting out. But y'all, let me let y'all hear this, okay? Let me let y'all hear this. I just don't want y'all. I just don't want to give it away. Okay. So what we're gonna do? I'm gonna let y'all hear. Pay attention now. Okay. And thanks for watching, y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna get big one day. This is the channel. Okay. Okay. Here we go.
Yes, Your Honor. As to this witness, the state has provided to the defense previously a PowerPoint presentation that this particular witness has used in presenting on gangs in the past. That will provide the form of a summary of his opinion. We can reprovide to the defense by the 16th, but they do have in their possession at least a presentation that has been made by this witness, something akin to what they've been asking other witnesses. Yes, sir. All right, thank you, sir. Can we start and investigate this one time, please?
This the gang expert, y'all.
My name is Tyrone Dennis, Tyrone. Last name Dennis, Dennis.
Good afternoon. Former investigator Dennis, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Would you please tell the court and the parties here where it is that you currently work?
I'm currently the director of school safety for Ural School District in St. Louis, Missouri.
What are your responsibilities as the director of school safety for the Rockwood School District?
I report directly to our superintendent. I'm over 32 schools. I supervise 17 police officers. Safety measures for the entire district, keeping the students safe.
And what does providing safety requirements for the school district entail?
Intruder safety, training, physical safety for the actual buildings, supervising the school resource officers to make sure that they are keeping the school safe in their roles every day.
How long have you worked there?
I'm in my 4th year.
Prior to working with the Rockwood School District, were you employed by the City of Atlanta Police Department?
I was.
What was the last position that you held with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
I was a detective in our gang targeted enforcement unit. I also served with the ATF for almost 6.5 years.
So let's start with the gang targeted enforcement unit. Would you explain to the court and the parties here what that is?
I joined the gang unit in 2013. My role was to monitor, document, and prosecute gang cases. It was my responsibility to know gang trends, to know those participating in criminal activity associated with gangs.
And you mentioned the ATF, you're being a member of the ATF task force. Tell the court about that.
I basically served as a task force officer with the ATF, so basically similar to a special agent, but I wasn't physically sworn in, or I was, how to put it, I still was APD, but I also was deputized as a special agent with the ATF as well.
And when we're speaking at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, with the ATF as a task agent, what was your main focus? How long did you serve as an investigator with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
From 2011 to my retirement date of August 10th of 20.
Prior to 2011, and was that in June 2011?
Say that again, yes.
Prior to 2011, where did you work within the police department?
I was a patrol officer. I worked for Zone 5 for 6.5 years. I was a beat officer in the old 4th Ward Boulevard area.
As a beat officer, did you have any opportunity to interact with the community?
Every day.
Prior to joining the Atlanta Police Department, what did you do?
Went to college.
And what was your major?
I majored in criminal justice and sociology.
And did you receive a bachelor's of science in criminal justice and in sociology?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and where did you go to school?
University of North Alabama.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 2, a copy of which has been provided to the defense, as well as what I have marked as State's Exhibit 2B, as in Bravo, and I will give a copy of 2B to a representative for the defense, Mr. Steele, who is in close. May I approach, Your Honor? Showing you And just for the record, when did you provide that to the state? It is double space and 3 pages long. It consists of 1.5 pages of, well, actually 1 page of the training, and then the second and the third page are just the cases that he has testified.
Mr. Harvey, I'll let you know when you next time. You see that TV. Okay, all right. Yes, sir. The state has been a conflict with arranged to get a copy.
Yes. Thank you. We'll have that sent as I see. Investigator Dennis, would you tell the court what training that you underwent to become a police officer with the Atlanta Police Department?
I went to the police academy. I started with Atlanta Police September 7, 2004. I was a recruit until December 2004. Went to the academy in December of 2004, sworn in April 25th of 2005.
And what types of classes did you have to undergo at the academy?
Basic law, EVOC training to drive a patrol vehicle, firearms, pistols, test, general training, mental evaluation, all that.
When you became a part of the targeted enforcement or gang unit, was there another name as well later on, criminal intelligence unit?
Yes,
When you became a part of that unit with the Atlanta Police Department, had you received any specialized training in the area of criminal street gangs?
not before that time, no.
Prior to becoming an investigator with the gang unit, had you had any exposure to gang members and alleged gang members during your time with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
Yes.
Would you explain or describe that for the court?
My beat assignment, which was Boulevard, 4th Ward, had, it's almost was like the free zone for gang members through Bedford Pines. Section 8 house was provided for the females, and where the females go, usually the guys went. And so pretty much most gang members had some type of relationship with a female in that area. Over the course of being a beat officer, you would see graffiti, have interaction with different individuals, and
Have interaction with different individuals.
with different individuals that either live there or sometimes we have domestic disputes, different things like that. And a lot of the stuff that I learned about gangs, I didn't just learn when I became a police officer.
Where did you get your first education into the world of criminal street gang activity?
The west side of St. Louis, where I was raised.
Okay. Now, what type of, and when you say that wasn't your first exposure, what type of exposure or education did you have in gangs growing up on the west side of St. Louis?
The neighborhood that I grew up was gang infested, drug infested. And once the movie Colors came out in 88 or 89, the entire St. Louis was flooded with gangs. And so at that time, I was probably 10 years old. I had to know about gangs and gang culture and what to wear and what not to wear and where to go and what not to go for survival. And so through early on, I learned what a blood, what a crip, a gangster disciple, and so forth and so on. I learned the hand signals and different things like that, a form of nonverbal communication, because somebody could be threatening your life starting to go down.
What is BMF?
Black Mafia Family.
And when you say starting to go down, what do you mean?
I lived off Sydney Marcus, and so there was a big billboard off the interstate, exit 86, and then on my way to the police academy, there was another big billboard near Turner Field that said BMF, the world is ours. And my first night in Atlanta, I got introduced to who BMF was. I was at Club Visions, and I seen all these guys popping bottles and so forth and so on. And that's when my education on who BMF was. That was the only game, pretty much, I was familiar with at first. Once I became a patrol officer, it wasn't, you had groups of guys that kind of hung out together, but it probably wasn't until '07, '08 I started seeing stuff that looked like home, gang graffiti, and knowing on what I already knew, I'm like, what is they doing here in Atlanta? I didn't think gangs was prevalent in Atlanta like that.
And you mentioned BMF. What did that stand for?
Black Mafia Family.
Okay. So you mentioned in '07 and '08 you started to see things that looked like home. Where were you working during that time?
Zone 5, Atlanta Police Department.
Did you just observe it?
For myself, I was fascinated with it's real or not because Atlanta wasn't viewed as a gang city. And so I started doing my own kind of homework and getting to educate myself. I had an interaction with an individual who enlightened me about a gang operating within my beat, Bird Gang. And as he enlightened me on Bird Gang, he would give he basically was in custody. And as we talked, he would give a nickname, and I basically created a beat book identifying individuals that was associated with this specific gang. That became my everyday when I would go on a call or other people would have interaction with them. I basically cataloged, name a source of information for the detective. Robbery or something. That reach out dated in there with different tattoos, different of Chris Markel Bennett was kidnapped. And when he was kidnapped, my supervisor had Murdoch, who were homicide missing persons. And when we actually met at the King Center, and when we met, I basically brought my beat book, showed him all the stuff, and was telling him about this gang. And he looked me in my face and said, "You watch too much TV." And of course, at the time, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm kind of offended. About a week later, he reached back out to me and he said, "I want to apologize to you." And I was like, "For what?" And he said, "Because everything that you gave was spot on. And if you didn't tell us this, we wouldn't know anything about it." And so at that point, he put me in to go to Apex.
What is Apex?
Apex was the spinoff of Red Dog.
And what was Red Dog?
Red Dog was basically running every drug dealer out in Georgia created during the crack epidemic to target drug dealers and housing projects. And so
Red Dogs.
I knew what Red Dog was from Freaknik. Growing up in St. Louis, people that came to Freaknik would talk about the Red Dogs and they don't play and do stuff like
Now,
that.
real deal.
Came on Atlanta Police Department, they still were in existence. And but they were still.
Hold on for a moment. Now, real deal, we spoke about, I told y'all about Red Dogs, right? When I was talking about Young Thug the last time, I brought up the Red Dogs to y'all. I was telling y'all about a Red Dog. The Red Dogs in Atlanta were like a drug unit. And they would lock them guys up. When they out there, they held drugs. You ought to see all of them running. And then we were young, we ran too. Well, yeah, so that's what Red Dog was. I spoke to y'all about that. Okay.
just for the record to reflect it, what some of that formal training entailed.
The first course, street gang identification and awareness. I took that in July of 2013.
What did that entail?
How to identify gang members and being aware of trends, clothing, and so forth.
Okay. And how many hours was that class?
8 hours.
Okay. And that was given by the Georgia Public Safety?
Correct.
Okay. And going back to the Peace Officer Standards and Training Council post certification, did you have that during your time as a law enforcement officer in Georgia?
Yes.
And are you currently certified with as a law enforcement agent now?
Yes, I'm post-certified in Missouri.
Okay. What other classes have you taken, formal or informal, on gang?
Exhibit 2B basically illustrates what we, in our gang unit, I basically tried to take any gang training that was offered while still trying to work and do my job. And so anytime gang classes was offered, if we could attend, we would. And also attend other training with other departments. We would have monthly gang meetings with other gang units in other jurisdictions. We shared information. A lot of times, a lot of our gang members in Atlanta migrated to other jurisdictions, and so a lot of times we became help to them to help them with their cases more so than them helping us.
So the gang intelligence course listed on State's Exhibit 2B that you received with the Gwinnett Police Department in February of 2016 for 2 hours, what was that?
Basically, information sharing on gangs in the metro area.
And what kind of information was shared?
What type of crimes that they were dealing with that might be reflective to what we were dealing with in the city. A lot of the times, like I said previously, our gang members would migrate to Gwinnett, DeKalb, Cobb, and so forth. And so we would pretty much have an up on them because we were faced with it before they were.
And what about the GGIA basic gang class for 8 hours that you took in 2018? Is GGIA Georgia Gang Investigators Association?
Yes. And so the chief of Morrow Police, he since passed away. They would put on pretty much an annual basic gang class, and that was to help educate gang investigators on some of the same things, gang trends and different things like that.
What about the violent crime investigations class that you had with ATF in 2018 for 5 hours? What was that?
It was similar, going over violent crime investigations. Being a task force officer, I was basically a case could be, my focus was guns, gang members that were arrested with guns, and then it would be my job to look at their criminal history to see if they were
Okay, so what he's an expert, y'all, a gang expert, and he called YSL a non-traditional gang right here in this hearing. He explained why he's getting ready to explain to y'all in a few minutes why YSL was considered a hybrid gang when questioned by Young Thug attorney. He said that they are a gang that blends the element from both a non-traditional or local style gang with that of a traditional gang. The gang expert said so. YSL is associated with the traditionally style gang. S means you know what, money, murder, which is based in New York. And therefore, they have both their own set of identifiers that they also use along with traditional blood gangs identifiers, and those specifically connected to S, money, murder. Okay. And he's going to get into it in a minute.
And the California National Gang Violence Conference, what was that in 2018?
Every year they put on a national conference in California, basically gather in California to go over gangs. It's information sharing. Different departments have dealt with different type of investigations, and you basically learn from those who've done it before you. You share information, and also we share information. I think I actually presented at that conference.
Okay. What about gangs, hip hop and gangs in 2019 with South Fulton Police for 3 hours? What was that?
I basically made a gang presentation about hip hop and gang culture, and I basically used movies, music, and some of the things that we have in normal regular people look at and don't even know that they're being pretty much spoon-fed gang culture. I think Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, Juice, all those different movies that I grew up watching that are prominent in black culture. I basically explained the gang nexus to the movie. Even with Boys in the Hood, when I saw Boys in the Hood as a teenager, we stood up and clapped at the end when Doughboy got revenge for Ricky, not knowing that that was gang retaliation.
So, how many gang investigations have you either led or been a part of during your time as a law enforcement officer?
I lost count. Honestly, 50 to 100 or more.
Okay. And during that time, you said that you have interacted with either known gang members or alleged gang members. How many of those interactions have taken place either formally or informally during your time as a law enforcement officer?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
Hundreds.
The information that you received from formal or informal confidential informants or from formal or informal interviews with gang members or alleged gang members, did you always take the information at face value, or did you do anything to try and corroborate or
Every piece of information that we receive, we have to corroborate and do our own due diligence to investigate it. For me, myself, the worst thing I wanted to do was charge or do something to someone that didn't do anything. And so any information that I receive from, it could be a baby mama or the elderly lady on the corner or a gang member, I'm going to look into it to see if it's relevant or to try to understand what they're telling me. I can't necessarily take anything on face value because in the law enforcement and gang culture, most people know that talking to law enforcement can be a death sentence. And so me knowing that, I'm trying to protect people's identity and respect, that I have a job to do to not only listen to them, but to try to protect them with the information that they're providing to me. Working as a patrol officer, I've built countless relationships with people from the community. I've been gone almost 4 years. I still get calls from the community because people don't know that I'm either gone or I've built a trust factor with them where they feel comfortable in providing information to me.
and what is Clippers and Cops?
Clippers and Cops is a nonprofit that I created, endeavored to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community, trying to create empathy between law enforcement and the community. When I go get my haircut, everybody was equal. And when we're in the barbershop, we would talk about everything under the sun. So I felt, why can't we talk about citizen and police engagement? And so in March of 2018, we went to the same barbershop on Edgewood, and I basically gathered not only law enforcement, I gathered people from the community, gang members, whomever, and we engaged in conversation, and we basically been doing the same thing every third Thursday of the month ever since.
Do you also do consultant work?
I do.
And would you explain what that is?
Basically, I do gang consulting work on liability cases. So, for example, if someone is shot, killed at an apartment complex or a gas station, a lot of times they will sue the property, and so I will be hired to explain the gang evidence or the gang nexus in the case.
Have you ever been sworn in as a gang expert in Fulton County?
Yes,
Do you know how many times?
at least 10.
law enforcement organizations?
I'm a member of Noble National Organization of Black Law Enforcement.
Okay. Have you received any awards or recognition for your law enforcement service?
I probably left Atlanta Police Department as one of the most decorated officers that ever came through the department. And I did 16 years. Most officers do 30.
Did you have an occasion to gain any familiarity with the gang known as
Family Bloods, yes.
Would you explain how it is that you gain familiarity with that particular gang?
The Inglewood Family Bloods is a California-based criminal street gang that has ties to Atlanta through three of our hybrid gangs: Atlanta Blood Gang, ABG, Bird Gang, which operated in my beat, and Haiti Gang. Those three gangs basically merged to make one big gang under the traditional umbrella, which would be IF Gang, IF, or Inglewood Family Bloods.
Did you first learn about that particular gang during your time as a law enforcement officer?
Yes.
Was it during your time as a beat officer or as an investigator?
Both. I initially came in contact with Bird Gang, and this Bird Gang basically had a stronghold on Edgewood, Auburn, and 4th Street in the drug trade. And with them having that stronghold, they were part of the beat book that I spoke about.
Did you have any involvement in the investigation of the case involving the murder of Donovan Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you have an active involvement in the investigation of crimes that occurred during the year 2015 forward?
Myself and my partner was pretty much the lead detectives on the case.
And when you say lead detectives on the case, did you have an opportunity to interact with suspects and witnesses in any of the cases that occurred during 2015 that occurred after the murder of Donovan Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
Did that investigation include investigation into an organization known as YSL?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had an opportunity to interview alleged YSL criminal street gang members?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know how many?
Several that's in this courtroom and that was charged about this investigation, yes.
Are you able to explain to the court whether information that you attained about YSL and Inglewood Family Bloods, what were the sources of the information that you currently hold about those organizations?
The information that I gained associated with the information I already knew, basically, when Donovan Thomas was assassinated on January 10, 2015, I was off. It was a Saturday night. One of our detectives that was working basically reached out and said, "Hey, you put Donovan Thomas into our gang files. What do you know about him?" And I politely told him to go to my bottom drawer and get my black beat book. Once he got my beat book, he basically had Donovan's profile, Bird Gang's information, and so forth. Fast forward to that Monday when I got to work, my supervisor basically said, "What do you know about Bird Gang?" I said, "What do you want to know?" He said, "Well, we have a meeting with every federal agency in the city at 2 o'clock. I need you to create a war room." And Operation Planners was born. From that, I had to basically compile who Bird Gang was, who the rival of Bird Gang was, which was YSL, Young Limelight, and identify those that would be either targeted or suspects in his murder.
So let me talk about how you gained the information that you then utilized during the course of those investigations and gained through those investigations. Was any of the information that you gained during that time the result of things like cellular phone extractions or jailhouse? Could you explain to the court how that aided in your attaining knowledge and information on these particular groups?
In investigating this case, we basically were dealing with an all-out war. Every day, we being shot up, people being shot. And so it was our job to mitigate that and stop it. People were arrested. When people were arrested, if they had a cell phone, we would get a search warrant to extract the contents of their cell phone. We would then reach out to whatever social media we could find to try to get their social media contents. If they were in custody and spoke on jail calls, we tried to monitor the jail calls and those interactions as well. People that were taken into custody, we would basically attempt to speak with them. We spoke to family members who were victims. We spoke to witnesses. We spoke to people in the community. We spoke to everybody we could to try to do our due diligence to investigate this case.
And have you done that throughout your time as a law enforcement officer investigating gangs when a crime occurs?
Yes.
And is it always the case that you're speaking with alleged gang members as perpetrators?
We've spoken to both.
Both, what do you mean?
We've spoken to people that are already documented gang members. We've spoken to alleged gang members. We've spoken to people that aren't gang members. We've spoken to their girlfriends, moms, sisters, cousins, whomever.
And are they sometimes victims?
Yes. Usually, my saying was today's suspect is tomorrow's victim.
Okay. Did these sources of information, first of all, do you know how many cellular phone extractions involving gang information and knowledge that you have examined?
I couldn't even put a number on it.
Is it in excess of 50?
Possibly.
Okay. And what about jail calls? Do you know the number of jail calls that you've listened to that have given you insight into gang culture and terminology?
Countless. This wasn't the only case or big case that we've investigated over the years. Basically, our unit not only dealt with our own cases, we dealt with other units' cases, we dealt with other jurisdictions' cases. We assisted countless investigations.
And did that information that you gained from the sources you named for the court give you insight into criminal street gangs in Atlanta that the general public may have had no knowledge of?
Yes.
And would you explain instances, examples of that?
A lot of times, individuals that were in custody would basically attempt to talk in slang or things that sometimes you would get slang that you may not be familiar with. And so you might have a relationship with someone in the community or this particular community where the crime occurred to help explain to you what that means. And so sometimes you would have to reach out and say, what does slap mean? Or what does mac and cheese mean? Or the biscuit, get the biscuit out the oven or whatever it was. You have to go get clarity with someone else to help you understand if you didn't understand the lingo. In gang culture is constantly changing. And so through social media posts, sometimes you'll look at a social media post and quite not understand what someone's saying. Or sometimes they'll quote a song and change the lyrics, change the lettering. Instead of saying I'm on Cleveland, they might say I'm on Cleveland, or things of that nature. They might, instead of saying bricks with a CK, they might put two C's instead. And a lot of times, gang members or people associated with gang culture would take the time to do that. And through social media was an attempt to explain or to help share their identity as such.
Now, you mentioned biscuit and mac and cheese. Are these references to food in
To the common eye, yes, but in gang investigations, they could have meant a number of different things, and so it was our job to decipher it, because sometimes you would read some of the stuff and it wouldn't make sense to you until you talk to someone in that life or in gang that has a gang culture that is able to explain exactly what they mean. Gangs is almost like the unwritten, or a lot of the things that they do could be a nonverbal communication through hand signals. I could almost be flipping you off and you not even know it in common. Or I might say something to you, like I might wet you up. And to you, you might be thinking, I don't need a bath.
You got water.
that's the blood wetting your shirt.
Okay.
And so those are things that we had to explain to help it make sense.
And did you hear those sort of phrases and terminology while you were an investigator with the gang unit with the Atlanta Police Department? I'm going to show you what has already been said as exhibit number 3. Now, when exactly did you leave the Atlanta Police Department?
August 10th of 20.
Okay. So, State's Exhibit 3 having an effective date of August 13th, 2020, was implemented after you had gone.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you look at the section number 5.3 regarding gang member identification and the criteria used as described in State's Exhibit 3?
Yes.
And would you read for the record what those 6 criteria are?
Gang member identification is based on the following criteria. 1, when an individual admits membership in a gang. 2, when a reliable informant identifies an individual as a gang member. 3, when an informant of previously and unattested reliability identifies an individual as a gang member and is corroborated by independent verification. 4, when an individual resides in or frequents a particular gang area and affects their style of dress, use of hand signs, symbols, or tattoos, and associates with known gang members. 5, when an individual has been arrested several times in the company of identified gang members for offenses which are consistent with usual gang activity. 6, when there are strong indications that an individual has a close relationship with the gang but does not meet the above criteria, he should be identified as a gang associate.
Were those 6 criteria in effect at the time you were an investigator with the City of Atlanta Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. And reading section 5.2 regarding gang and criminal street gang and gang-related crime. Were those
Okay. What I want to do right here, y'all. I, hold on for a second. I was trying to find another area, but it's okay.
Relationships with people from the community. I've been gone almost 4 years. I still get calls.
I'll skip it because I was already right there.
And when we're in the barbershop, we were talking about
Hold
everything
on.
under the sun. So I felt, why can't we talk about it?
I took it too far back. Hold on. I was trying to get up to where Steele is speaking. You know what I mean? So I think they must have took a break. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put it right here, before they go to break. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put it right here.
question, if you don't mind, sort of clarify for myself. I think you've asked all the questions you need to this one time.
I'm gonna take it back a little bit, just a little, right there, right there, right there. Okay, y'all, because I want y'all to get a question.
And so in 2014, the rift began not only between
going to object to this level of detail in this type of hearing. I don't. I understand the court's ruling regarding the certain lines of inquiry, but getting into the facts of law here, I don't believe this is the appropriate mechanism.
Okay. Well, then just go back to the original question. What caused the IF, your investigation, to become a qualified expert? Well, expert, the Sound Court's consideration to be qualified as to why IF and why Cell are rivals.
Part of it was music, part of it was gang, part of it was power, part of it was money, and all those factors balled into subsequently the assassination of Donovan Thomas.
And where do you get the information? And I'll tell you what I wrote down if it helps you. But you're asserting a lot of facts.
Okay.
So what's the background of those facts?
Sitting through countless interviews with individuals that were either A, charged, B, suspects, or C, interacted with law enforcement, and doing my own investigations through witnesses, the families of victims, social media, all this information. We're talking about this is from 8 years ago for myself, and
2015.
correct. And some of the individuals that are sitting here, I actually sat in the interviews with them and discussed some of these things, and some of the points that were made or confirmed, some of them helped do that. So when you ask that question, this isn't necessarily just one person told us this or one thing happened. We're talking about my expertise as an investigator, as a police officer, and as a human, being able to listen to what they're telling me, following up to corroborate and so forth to confirm or dismiss some of the information as, okay, did this happen? Could this happen? Or, okay, we tried to confirm a lot of the things that was told to us through actual case numbers and incidents that we can follow up on, or a witness that we can follow up on to confirm the stories that were being told to us. We didn't just say, okay, well, he said this, and okay, let's go get a warrant. It didn't happen like that.
Is this, I heard you say earlier about, and if I'm mistaken, I apologize, but the black book, is that what you said?
My people, yes.
Okay. I don't know where I got black from.
It was black. That's where you got it from. It was a black binder. Basically, as a police officer, I learned that knowledge was power. I didn't like touching on people every day. I didn't like searching people every day. And so I started to gather knowledge and information. And with that information, things started to make sense. It's almost like the Matrix or something. Once you start understanding gangs and the things that are going around, other stuff start making sense. The shooting that just happened that comes on the news at night too, the common person might think, oh, it's just a random shooting. Well, I'm going to dig and find the backstory, and then you find that backstory was that shooting was a retaliation to an incident that happened somewhere else. And they were retaliating from that incident that happened elsewhere and so forth. And so my people became information gathering, and so that it made sense not only for myself but my colleagues. And when other people would have incidents, gather that information and compile it in one place. I got the idea from the book from someone else. They had a beat book, and when we needed the information, it was jumbled up. And so for myself, I started to catalog it, and it helped with identification. It helped with, I didn't know I was doing gang work before I became a gang detective.
Where did that beat book go into any of your knowledge that you bring here today on the 14th day of November 2000?
I would say yes and no. Once I retired, I left my files where I'm required to leave, which is at APD. And like I said, I've been gone almost 3-4 years. I don't know where it is now.
Do you know where discovery
I,
that you're familiar with?
I don't know. I wasn't here for all of that. To be honest with you, Mr. Steele, the information that I possess in this case, we had this information 8 years ago. And if what's just in my personal opinion, some of the people that represent some of the individuals in some of these cases, they had the opportunity to compile this information and had access to this information 8 years ago. For myself and the people that worked on this case, we did our job and we presented it the way that we had it. That's why you see some people who took pleas years ago because we did our job. And honestly, a part of me, when this case came back, I felt that I moved on with my life. I don't live here, I don't work here anymore, and I did my job. If we would have had the proper support that I feel that we got now, then this case would have been over. Because the information that I'm telling you is in black and white. It's in our warrants, it's in our indictments, all of that. And I have absolutely nothing to, that like, I don't know where some of this stuff is because I'm retired. I moved on. I don't even have a police uniform anymore. So that's not my calling anymore.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. So the people may exist, but
Your Honor, I object to any further questioning about the big book or anything else.
I just have one more question, if you don't mind. Just want to clarify for myself. I think you've asked all the questions you need to at this point in time. Would you, would you allow one more question, and then if it's not a proper question, you can tell me. Okay. The retired detective, not the issue. Do you know where the beat book is today?
Your Honor, I object. He's already answered that.
You can answer it.
I don't know where it is. My files from my previous profession is today. We catalog and kept our files. We have to leave them in the office. When different supervisors come in, different stuff can get misplaced. I don't know. No, I'm not there, so I don't know.
No, I understand. I appreciate the information. The Georgia Gang Investigator Association, how did you become a part of it? If you were a part of it, I know you attended classes.
For myself, I never joined, but I
Okay, I'm gonna stop right here.
we share information in house, and I believe Mark Belknap and Eric Murdoch. Detective Kimball Murdoch.
I'm gonna stop right here because the information that I just got up for y'all, it's the information that I wanted y'all to hear. The frustration in Young Thug uh, uh, attorney voice when the expert was speaking about the Black Book. Y'all like, share, and subscribe. I'm out.